Hello, guys. So Manchester United have lost the Europa League final. This is United District. Obviously, we were trying to put out some content earlier in the season, and we kind of slept off for multiple reasons. But the last few months, I've been trying to think of ideas of how to get back into YouTube, get back doing stuff on this platform. And I was kind of waiting for for something positive to happen, and instead it is probably the worst season in most of our memories, apart from a few of the older guys. But very, very little positivity from everyone who supports United at the moment, and you can't really blame them. I thought I'd just kind of get a video out there, get my thoughts out here of what has gone wrong at Manchester United right now. We can start off with the final. You've given up months of the season. We were bad, don't get me wrong, but we have essentially thrown in the towel. Mentally, the players, maybe even the manager, although he keeps saying that he wanted to kind of keep going in the Premier League. But the Premier League was given up, and it was all on the Europa League. And that final performance, really? Is that all you've got to offer? And maybe it's just an indication that a lot of the players aren't good enough. There's a lot of questions about the manager, which I'll probably get into. And first of all, I guess we'll start with Amarim, really, because you're 6 months into a job and there's already a lot of people questioning whether you should get to the next season. I think he will. That's what all the kind of reports indicate, that he's going to start next season at Manchester United. So that's one thing, but the fact that there's already that many questions, and United fans are very, very lenient for the most part, and there's a lot of lenient fans who want him to go. And personally, in my view, I think he deserves to stay. But if anyone else is saying that, I think he should go, I don't think anyone can complain about that. I don't think you can argue with someone else about whether he should stay or go. I think it's kind of, you've got no real leg to stand on. And I mentioned this on my Twitter last night after the game, and it's all you've really got to go off with Amarim right now is the fact that he's got 6 months under his belt, and you'd hope that, if you bring someone in this summer, that he's at least got an idea of how to deal with a lot of the shit around the club. Because I'm sure that we only know the surface level of it. The club feels so it's in such a bad condition, and hopefully his experiences over these last 6 months can help that. And the second thing is blind faith, because I think as a supporter, that is kind of what you're basing your support off. You don't really know what they do in training. You don't know 90% of the things that actually go into being a manager. Of course, major question marks over some of his tactics and some of his decisions, especially in that final. But I think most of the stuff that you go off of as fans is blind faith. In terms of the final, there's a few decisions which personally I just don't get. The first one was, and I saw a lot of people speaking about this before the game, I don't know why that back five started in that way. Lenny Yoro came back and it felt like a huge plus. But he and don't get me wrong, he had a good game in the final. He's probably our best player. But he was playing so much better at left centre back. And Mazraoui feels like he's so much better at right centre back than he is at right wing back. I don't know why you wouldn't just move Yoro back there, have Shaw and Dorgu on the wings, because as well, Luke Shaw can obviously be a good player, but the intensity levels just look so off, and like it's not that surprising because he's had about 10 million injuries, but yeah, I don't know why that was the way that the back five set up. I thought starting Bruno alongside Casemiro in the midfield was the right move, but once Spurs sat back, like once they got that goal and once they sat back, there's no benefit of your best player. And don't get me wrong, Bruno had an awful game, but why is he almost the deepest player in our attacks? Like, it does not make sense. Like, don't get me wrong, I think that was his worst performance of the season, Bruno, but I don't get what he's meant to do when he is almost like supplying the ball forward to players like Casemiro, like Dorgu, like Shaw, like Mazraoui, like Dalot. Like, why is he the one, the deepest in our team, playing it to these players who are not as good as him in the final third? And it was happening. That stayed that way until the 90th minute. Like, he was the one right at the back, and yeah, that did not make sense. Like, I understand starting that way once Spurs got the lead and it was clear that they were just sitting back and going, score against us. Come on, we back ourselves in our defensive unit. Which, I mean, over the last 2 years, any time I've watched Spurs, they have not gone into a defensive unit like that. And they've said, yeah, we'll do this, and we back ourselves to defend against you. And United couldn't break it down. Bruno was the deepest player. We've got too many issues in attack to even speak about. But yeah, I mean, Spurs had a game plan and it worked. I mean, that goal. I just think this goalkeeper, Onana, like, not even just for the goal, but in a final especially, you want kind of confidence to be shown from your goalkeeper. I think you've heard so many defenders speak about it where it's like, we get our confidence from our goalkeeper. The goalkeeper like communicates, he comes and helps them out. Like, when Lenny Yoro was trying to shield the ball back to him and he was just stood there not even reacting, and then Yoro had to panic and kind of clip it out wide, and it's like just little bits like that. And I thought he was a good signing when he first came in, and I think that proves that like a lot of us don't really know too much. I mean, I want to try and do a video about Onana as well, because I just think so many of the things that we expected with him just they're not worthwhile, or we're not using them. Like, all this ball playing and sweeping, for example, that was something that he was supposedly gonna bring, and it's something that he had at his old clubs. And then that Euro situation is a perfect example. That's what we complained about with David De Gea, stuff like that, and now he's bringing that to the table, and he doesn't have De Gea's shot stopping ability, which, I mean, we all kind of knew was the good part of his game. But yeah, the final, like, we didn't really deserve to win that final, and you can't really complain. Spurs got their goal, no matter how sloppy it was. They probably knew that they could get that one chance, even if they didn't really attack too much. They knew that we were fragile at the back, and we couldn't break them down, and that's the worst part. That's the worst part of it. 90 minutes, and you can't score one goal in a European final against a team who have a terrible defensive record. Like, they're just as bad as us in that instance. And yeah, bigger picture, I mean, the ownership have a lot to answer for. Like, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, and as well, I don't think that they deserve as much flack as some are giving them, because they did take over a club in an awful situation. Everyone knew that, but there's certain decisions where it's like very confusing, and also like you can't get away from the fact that all of the crap going on behind the scenes, like, that cannot be a good like work environment for everyone involved. And how do you really change that? It feels like it's going to be a long, hard change. One thing as well I want to mention is that you didn't really. It's hard to explain, but they didn't really go for the season, did they? Like they gave Ten Hag some backing. They were interviewing other managers in the summer. Decided that none of them were too good enough for us until a few months later, where one of the ones that they wanted, they persuaded to come after Ten Hag was sacked. But all of that happened. Decided to back Ten Hag until they realised it was the wrong decision. They sacked him in November or end of October. And then you think, because we were bad, and don't get me wrong, I think last season, 8th was so complimentary to Manchester United. We were awful. I think we were 14th to 15th standard, but we just had a few game changers. Scott McTominay won us countless points off the bench. But they still had a chance. The season was not over in October, and they decided to bring in a manager, and it's become clear that he was not going to change. He was not going to kind of alter to the playing squad, no matter whether you think that's right or wrong. They knew that. Like that would have been agreed during his interview process, during all that kind of that stage of him coming into the job. They knew that was coming, and we got briefs about Manchester United think Amorim can improve these players. Manchester United think that they won't need to bring in as many players because certain people will improve under Amorim. Like there was all these briefs, and then you quickly realise that not only is it bad to bring in a manager mid-season who has a completely different style of play, and you know that he's not going to adapt too much, but also he's doing that with a terrible squad, like a squad that is probably worse than we all want to admit. Even our favourite players, they're not probably as good as we think they are, and the bad players probably are as bad as we think they are. And mixing that with the fact that before the January transfer window, we were all going, they need to back him in January. They need to. You get a 20-year-old wing-back to replace Malacia, who left, and then you're already poor attack. Loses 2 players. One, no matter what you think, had scored over 100 goals for the club. And he, in the right environment, can be a goal scorer. And the other was an £85 million signing. And they both left on loan. Now, maybe that was a good decision in isolation, looking at both of them, because they've both done well. Their value has gone up, and maybe you can sell them for an extra few quid. But when you do that and don't replace anyone, on top of changing the manager, on top of sacking another manager mid-season after failing to kind of trust your gut in the summer, they threw the season. They didn't bring in any extra attackers. And then look at the final. The final is where nothing happened up front. Nothing happened. And yeah, tactics, yeah, formation plays a part. I agree. But you just need good players. And I mean, I'll end the video in a sec, but I think the last thing is, like I said earlier, you can't complain about anyone wanting Amorim gone. But I do think that he's been dealt a bad hand, and he has done worse than anyone could have imagined with that hand. But this was a guy that 95% of United fans were buzzing to come in, and it's the same story every time. He was top of his league, Portuguese league, I know. He was top of the Champions League. He was winning games that way. He was one of the highest rated young coaches in Europe, and just once again, it just looks like United have battered someone down. He didn't want to join the club until the end of the season, and you can kind of see why. But yeah, personally, I think give him a chance, because the worst that can happen is you sack him, hopefully after you actually improve the playing squad, so then maybe another manager can come in, and whether they adapt more or don't, hopefully they have a better unit, and hopefully more off the field stuff, which we don't even know the half of, is more calm, and then maybe we can improve from there. But yeah, I'd say there's not much to lose in giving him an extra chance at the start of the season, but it's been really bad, and you can't get away from that. Hopefully next season things improve, and I want to try and get on him or build a community and speak about good times with Manchester United. People my age, probably, we've not had the greatest run. We just missed out on the glory days, and it's been downhill ever since. But one thing in football is that I think things can change quicker than you imagine. Manchester United were unbelievable in 2013. A few years later, they were awful. Many clubs, Nottingham Forest, relegation, Europe, Aston Villa. There's a lot of things that, even Arsenal, they were in a bad way. I don't think many of those clubs feel like they're in as bad as a way as United right now, but yeah, things can change. Hopefully we'll be on top again soon, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next video.